Okay, it's on.
Yay! Hey, folks, and welcome back to Elements to Analyze with
Evan.
and Leah.
It's summer.
It is summer. Is this our first Baddie of the summer?
Yeah, right. Because we did the last one. I mean, technically, the last one was right after finals, but it didn't. It still didn't feel like summer at that point. I feel like. I don't know.
Yeah. So now we've had about 2 full weeks. Yeah, 2 full weeks of research,
Okay.
which has been really nice. I can't even describe like the just amazing life I feel like I have right now of just working during the week and then getting my weekends off and not having to study. Like it's just
I almost. It's weird. I almost felt. Last week I was
you
like,
feel guilty.
no, I wasn't the guilty. It was more that like I almost have trained myself to look forward to doing a little bit of work on the weekends, like just to get a little bit ahead. It keeps you in the mindset, because I think it's not amazing to be like, okay, 5 days on and then just 2 days off, like you don't think about anything. Maybe that stresses me out, and that's part of it, of just like not, especially with like research projects, because I feel like I build up so much momentum in the week like thinking about it, and then by Friday I'm like, well, don't have to think about that for a couple of days, and then I forget where I was. And so maybe that's part of it. I don't know, I'm probably just overthinking it. What about you, dude? So you
So
love this life? I think you just like the weather.
well, I mean, last weekend I did work every day of the weekend. So this weekend was the first weekend I took off, and it's just been like, yeah, it's been weird. Like, I'm like, oh, maybe I should just like read an article.
Yeah.
Like, no, like, I'm not going to do that. But Kevin and I went to our first online conference.
Oh yeah, Meiser. Hashtag
That
Meiser
was
20.
exciting.
Not 2020, Meiser 20.
Hashtag Meister20. What's wrong with your eye?
I think I got lemon in it. Oh god, I'm fine.
This is what you get for eating healthy.
I'm fine.
Are you going to cry on camera?
I don't think so. No. Okay, this is a big week because Leah, do you want to announce our second, going off of the guests of the big hits that our guests were last week, the just outstanding requests for guests.
We've been just bombarded with
Emails, tweets. That's all I can think of. TikToks.
Instagram, Facebook, it's trending. Okay, so this week we have our number one fan.
Besides our mothers and parents, like
Our number one fan. And honestly,
hello.
wait, repeat that
He's
again.
a postdoctoral scholar of
University of Iowa, postdoctoral scholar, Iowa City, Iowa, 52242.
Dr. Jon-Marc Rodriguez.
Yes. And honestly, before Johnny comes on here,
Yeah, we should say the nice thing before he gets on.
Johnny has been probably one of the most important people. I think he's probably the most important person at Iowa that we have in our like
Intellectual sphere.
yeah, and then one of obviously the most important people in our personal life. But just really, we have. I don't know. I honestly can say like I don't know where we would be if we didn't have Johnny.
No, I agree.
Like just, oh, it's crazy.
It is like I think you come along with maybe this is me sounding really really old, but like I think I've started to realize that people like Johnny don't come along that often. Like when you meet someone that you're like, no matter what happens in our careers, whatever, but I will make sure that they're a part of my, yeah, just like your life, career, things in general. And I'm proud to say that we're in the same, not only group right now, but like just group of people that will continue with our, like, we'll be in the same circle of people throughout our careers, which I think is just,
Exactly. Yeah.
just he's a 10 out of 10.
For sure. Totally agree. Okay, so Johnny's gonna come on here and we're gonna talk a little bit about kind of his perspective on higher education and his journey. Yeah. What did you say?
Likes. Okay. All right, I sent it. So we'll see whenever he joins. Oh,
Yeah.
there was a question I've wanted to ask him for a while. I was like, why? I hope he'd be okay answering this. Like, how did he end up here at Iowa? Which I don't. Have you asked him about that?
Yeah. It's because like Marcy, I think his advisor at his grad school,
Had mentioned.
to Nicole or to our advisor or something like that.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I guess I just didn't know. Like, was it like a difficult decision? We'll ask him, and we'll save it for him.
I'm so excited. He's gonna go. Watch him not show up.
Is this his first time using the computer? Oh, we didn't. No, it's 7:10. Whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it moved. What's personal?
What'd you say?
What else is new in our lives?
My lettuce plant is thriving. Like, I just thought of that because I just opened my window, but it is huge. Like, I'm gonna need to cut it.
Wait, no, don't cut it. What? That's not the point.
No, but didn't you say that you have to cut it?
When did I say that?
Yeah, like so it doesn't overgrow or something.
I don't think I said that.
Yeah, you did.
What are you talking about?
Because I was like, oh, my lettuce plant is like growing really big, and you were like, oh, so you're gonna have to like cut a little bit. So this is so exciting.
What if he does the whole thing without his video on? Are you kidding me, Johnny?
I think he's gonna do it. Oh, there.
Well, this is already recording.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess it is unfair that he has to come into this cold and just like, boom, you know, he has to get into it. Freeze, that's so sad. He has like the spottiest Wi-Fi. Oh wait, there. Okay,
He's working.
Okay.
Hey, Johnny.
Welcome.
Hey there.
We gave you a glowing intro,
Yes,
but you can't know about it until you watch it.
that's true.
Okay.
This is postdoctoral scholar. There was definitely more to the title that I felt, or like visiting. No, visiting wasn't there. No, I forget what it was. Anywho, this is Johnny.
I think it was Dr. Jon-Marc Rodriguez, comma, postdoctoral scholar, like University of Iowa, like all this stuff,
Okay.
or like like all this crazy stuff. But Johnny's the best postdoc east of the Mississippi, west of the Mississippi.
Never eat shredded. Yeah.
West of the Mississippi.
Is there like a really great postdoc on the other side of the Mississippi?
That you personally know, Leah.
Give me a run for my money.
All right, why don't you start? Okay, tell us, how did you get here, Johnny? Like, how did you get? Tell us your little backstory.
All right. So how far back do I go? It was a cold, rainy day in spring of 1992.
And then?
Yeah. Where do you want me to start?
No, maybe like college. Like, how'd you get into chem ed in the first place? Maybe a quick little.
Okay. Oh, I said how old I am. Now your audience is gonna know I'm older than Kevin.
They don't know. No one knows how old I am.
They didn't think. I don't think they know anything's older than Kevin.
Okay. Yeah. So undergrad. So I got interested in chemistry when I took a chemistry class in high school. I also took AP chemistry. And then I went to this thing called Farm Day, PH, Farm.
Oh, I was imagining like.
Yeah. And it was at UC San Diego. And I thought it was really interesting when they started talking about like, these are the different things that pharmacists do. They're not just, counting pills. They do some really innovative research. And so that got me interested in potential career paths related to chemistry. So then I went to UC San Diego. Did you tell the audience I grew up in San Diego?
No.
No. I didn't know how like personal you wanted to get.
It's
So we didn't hear anything.
Okay, yeah, I'm cool if they know that. Yeah. So I went to UC San Diego, great school, great location in La Jolla there. And I was there 4 years for undergrad, and then I ended up doing a master's. And I ended up deciding against pharmacy school. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do really in chemistry. I knew I wanted to do something related to chemistry, and I think that a master's is a kind of a good way if you're not kind of sure what you want to do. A master's is a good alternative to a PhD, because a PhD is such a huge time commitment, and I wasn't sure if that's something that I wanted to do. So I ended up doing a master's, and I realized that I didn't like wet lab research. it's really great the type of research that people do, and especially even now, like related to finding vaccines, and there's a lot of great applications, and I'm glad that other people are doing that.
Was it biochem research? What
Yeah, I did biochemistry research. We were working on isolating some protein related to gene transcription. Yeah, fun stuff.
Riveting.
And not a fan. I didn't really like that. But what I did like was working as a teaching assistant. I liked being a TA and teaching, and that's when I kind of decided that I wanted to go into teaching. So I ended up deciding to kind of pursue or consider thinking about applying to a PhD program. My concern, though, was that I would never.
What was your concern? Sorry. You froze. You turned into a robot for a second. Oh no.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
I hear you. It's just you're a little frozen.
We can hear you.
Uh-oh. Iowa really needs to get up.
Is this going to be edited out?
No, I don't know. We could figure something out. My
No,
friend,
but-
we were talking about, like, did you know that SpaceX and NASA like sent 2 people into space this week?
And I'm back.
He's back. Did you see how they sent people into space?
Yeah, it was like 5 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were like, he made a good point of like they're transmitting like 4K video live so that you can watch it, and like our Wi-Fi still goes out. Like it just doesn't. That was these 2 other kinds of. Okay, cool. So what was your concern about PhD school?
I guess I left you there on a little
It was a cliffhanger.
cliffhanger there.
I was at the edge of my seat.
Yeah. Special thanks to our sponsors there, our commercial break.
We should reach out to people.
Yeah, my main concern was that I would be, because I wanted to teach chemistry at the university level. I really enjoy the depth that you get into when you're teaching chemistry at that level. And my concern was if I did a PhD program, that I would spend 5 or 6 years essentially, well, isolating some kind of protein, purifying some kind of enzyme or something. And I didn't want to do that, like here, especially because
I feel so bad because Johnny probably feels so bad, but it's like not his fault. Like, Johnny, you froze again.
Luckily, he's been freezing in like good positions.
I don't know about that.
Like, no, but like it just looks like he's looking out the window,
That's true. He does look really like he's questioning what he was going to do with his life.
You just texted, yikes. Oh, there you are.
sorry about that. Wow.
This is hilarious. This is what's going to make us famous.
What if we do get the biggest bump in subscribers after Johnny does
We
his?
probably will, honestly.
You haven't had any problems with internet on your previous videos. I think it's my fault.
No,
we did. We just didn't upload it.
Oh, is that the one? Was that one where you like
Yeah.
froze up? Oh, okay.
And then we had to like leave the meeting, and we had to do 2. It was really crazy.
Well, if you want me to edit this video, I could. Or
Johnny, no.
We'll figure it out. Don't worry. So, okay, and I could say similar sentiments. We're both in the same age range, somewhat. I felt the same way though about the whole like, is 5 years of wet lab, knowing I don't like it, worth it? And
yeah.
Same thing. Like you decided there's no way that you could do it.
No, I honestly, being in a lab, it gave me a lot of anxiety being in a lab. I just wasn't great at it at all. And I found it to be really stressful. And you don't learn how to teach when you're doing that. The main focus is your very specialized, specific research project. And I didn't want to spend 5 years working on something that wasn't relevant to what I wanted to do in the end. But then I found out that there are people that actually do research related to how to become a better instructor, that chemistry education research. And that really interested me because then I could focus on doing research that was relevant to my career path. And my plan when I did my PhD program at Purdue University in Indiana. And my plan was after I finished to get a teaching position. I didn't realize that I would really enjoy doing the research. And I really do. I find it very intellectually engaging. And I normally kind of frame it as that my job is to think about thinking. So I do a lot of thinking about students' reasoning and how are they thinking about chemistry and how can we use that to improve the teaching and learning of a difficult topic. And so instead of getting a teaching position after I finished my graduate program, I focused more on finding a job that would kind of train me to be a professor, that would allow me to then have my own research group, have my own research program, and allow me to pursue those interests. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm a postdoc.
So you expected before PhD school that you were going to just right afterwards just go into academia. You didn't want like tenure professor track. Oh, okay. So that's okay.
So because I remember you mentioned at one point, like, because you want to go to like a big research school and like have your own lab. So before you came to PhD school, you were like, no, I just want to be a teacher at like a smaller school or a professor at a smaller school. And then you just like, we're like, oh, now I want to do like big research school type research.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted a lecture type position where all I would do is just teach chemistry. But I guess, actually going through the PhD program, it changed my mind. I think that it wasn't so much research that I disliked. It was wet lab research specifically. So it wasn't representative of all types of research, I would say.
Totally.
Did you do a lot of this?
What's that?
Was it like a lot of pipetting? So you're just like literally like
pipetting, yeah.
Like in my mind, when people are like, "Oh, I isolate this blank," and you can fill in whatever you want. I'm like, "Oh, so you're just doing this like 10 times?" Run it through the little shaker, and then you put it in the PCR machine, whatever.
Centrifuge.
The what?
Yeah.
The centrifuge.
Oh, centrifuge. Yeah, sorry, they call it fancy things. They can't call it just a shaker.
The shaker.
Well, there are kind of these shaking machines.
Yeah,
that
this is
there's some bacteria, and it helps kind of
agitator.
Stimulate their growth. Yeah, agitate.
Well, that's okay. Can I ask? And I don't know if this is like too whatever because of the CER community, but what was your process for trying to find postdocs? Like, was it a big because grad school, when you think about it, is generally like, oh, let me apply to like 7 schools, whatever, and then kind of weigh my options. But I would imagine postdoc is more targeted, I would assume.
It's very targeted. It's also kind of the luck of the draw. I mean, it's a small community. And so the question is who currently has funding to hire a postdoc. Okay. So that can be a little challenging. But I was very fortunate because my current advisor, do we say names here? I think you've mentioned before.
We mentioned Nicole before.
Nicole is here advising. Yeah, the current advisor, Renee Cole. our current advisor in our research group, Nicole Becker. She was a graduate student for my PhD advisor, Marcy Towns. So Nicole. Yeah, so Nicole had told Marcy was Nicole's previous advisor. Nicole had told Marcy that she was looking for a postdoc. And so I kind of had a little bit of an in there. So it does make a big difference in terms of who you know. Oh, I think it paused again.
Leah, it's just Leah.
I think it might be me.
It's you.
Am I frozen?
Yeah.
Am I frozen in a bad position?
Oh, okay. No. Yeah, no.
No, it's a good one.
Keep going. Keep talking. Sorry, my bad.
Okay, so
So-
it kind of worked out. And did you originally, I guess you weren't planning on postdocing before anyway? Like it was more like you said, the wanting to get more training on being a faculty member, essentially, like a research driven faculty member?
Yeah, so once I decided that I wanted to kind of go in the direction of research, and that's something I decided while I was in graduate school,
Uh-huh.
and I knew that postdoc is the best way to kind of train to be, to work at an R1 institution.
Okay, that makes, I never, yeah, I guess in my head, maybe I just had this negative view of postdocs and I think they probably came out this way. Like when they first started coming, it was because there were too many PhDs and not enough jobs. So maybe that's where postdocing came from. But so maybe I shouldn't view it as that. It is more of a training aspect, right? Because do you feel a huge difference in this role versus grad school, I would assume?
Yeah, well, to go back to your first point, it definitely is a training position. It's not just like, oh, there aren't enough jobs.
Mhm.
You are working towards becoming a professor. And
So without a postdoc position, like,
I'm guessing her question is, without a postdoc position, would it be difficult to find an R1 position? I think
yes, that's my question.
You froze the cliffhanger. It was amazing.
Yeah, the answer is yes. And I think it depends on the graduate student. If you don't have a lot of experience with research, or maybe you didn't publish a lot of papers, then postdoc is definitely going to be useful to help kind of make your CV more competitive. But a lot of times when you're looking for jobs, it'll explicitly say, oh, we want you to have done a postdoc.
Okay.
But going back to Kevin's question about training and whether or not it's different from graduate school, I feel like it's similar to kind of let's say my last year
Yeah.
as a graduate student, in the sense that you're not taking any classes and you're really just focusing on research.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just focusing on research. And I was fortunate that our group at the time, we had funding. And so I was a research assistant. So I didn't have to teach as much.
Yeah.
Which is kind of bittersweet because I really enjoy teaching. But the reality is, the less that you teach as a graduate student, the more you're going to get done, because teaching is very time consuming. And the main way that you're evaluated in academia is how much research have you done, as measured by publications.
Yeah.
That's what people are looking for. How many publications do you have? And so in a way, I kind of felt a little bit like a postdoc, just a little bit. At least I got kind of a glimpse as a graduate student, because I was mentoring.
Oh god, no, I'm a little. Why is it that I have the only good internet? Like what?
Am I even here?
No, Leah's here. Johnny froze, but I can still vaguely hear him talking every once in a while, every once in a hot minute.
What is it with today?
This is a solo show for me. He is still, you're right. Like he's still in a pretty flattering position, and like he really looks like he's in the middle of some important point.
Yeah. What do we do? I wonder if he can hear us.
Whatever. Well, it's just okay. I think this is some insight, which I guess I just never asked Johnny about his previous.
And that's probably the most important thing you'd ever want to know about graduate school.
Wow, what sage wisdom from Dr. Jon-Marc.
Where did I cut off last?
It was after like the publications thing.
We were kind of discussing like your competitiveness in getting a job if you don't have a postdoc, or like, is it required to have a postdoc? And then you were saying like postdocs are helpful if you weren't like super published heavy in grad school and stuff.
Yeah. But just to add to that, a lot of times, especially if you're applying for an R1 research position, they will say on the application that that one of the requirements is that you've had a postdoc.
Okay.
Okay, got it.
Which I think is important for you if you want to be successful as in terms of running your own research group. Having that kind of experience as a postdoc is really important, especially because one of the things that I'm doing a lot right now is writing grants, and getting funding for your group is really important. And that's not really something you have practice as a graduate student. That's not really something that you do.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you can also do postdocs like not in academia, correct?
Yeah, there are all sorts of postdoc positions that you could do. Working for I guess American Chemical Society, if you postdoc there, that's kind of still related to academia, but yeah, there are other alternatives. I'm not as familiar with other options because I've stayed in academia and I haven't really tried anything else.
I remember someone told me some interesting places to postdoc once, and I completely forget them. And now I probably should have remembered them, because they definitely still had to do with teaching. Like it was in that realm. It wasn't years ago. I should probably remember that by this point. Oh, that's rough.
This age. It's okay. No need to feel bad.
All right. Do you have questions for Johnny, Leo?
No, I think like we kind of wanted to know the journey. I do want to know, like, and we kind of touched on it a little bit, but like main differences you see between your role and your role as a grad student. Like, and you touched on a few of them, but like main differences there.
I would say the biggest thing is, as a postdoc, I feel that my goal is not so much tied to my personal success. Like as a graduate student, you just want to publish a bunch of papers, and you want to be, get like first author paper, because that shows that you contributed a significant amount of work to that paper. But as a postdoc, I'm not as focused on that because my goal isn't really, it's important for me to publish papers, but to me that's more like a secondary goal, because my primary goal is really to support the group. So it's not so much about me anymore. It's about getting Nicole tenure, because that's really important for her job, and that's one of the reasons why I was hired to push papers out the door to help make her tenure and promotion package more competitive. And so helping Nicole, but then also mentorship is a huge role that I see for me. So maybe as a graduate student, I would be concerned about, I want to get as many first author publications as I can. But now that my role is more about mentoring, my goal is more like, let's get Kevin and Leah on papers. Let's get them to be first author papers so that they can be successful, because I really want you two to be successful, and I want to do whatever I can to get you there. I had a lot of support when I was in graduate school. I worked a lot with Kinsey Bain. I don't think you've met her, but maybe you've seen some of the papers that we published together. And so I feel like I had a really great support system when I was in graduate school, and I wanted to kind of pass it on and provide that same kind of support and mentoring to people in my current research group.
And you do a darn good job.
I hope so. I try.
Was the group a lot bigger in the Towns group?
It fluctuates a lot, and there were different things that happened with professors that were at Purdue, and then they ended up having to leave for different reasons. And so Marcy, she's very supportive, and she kind of took them in, and they kind of joined her group. And she has a relatively large office.
I thought you literally just meant like she has a big office. So.
Well, I mean, the town's research space is rather large. There's enough for 9 graduate students.
Oh, wow.
Well, there's 9 desks, and then yeah. But yeah, so she kind of has a lot at one time, a lot of graduate students at one time. And now the way things have kind of worked out, she's the only chem ed person who's really kind of taking on graduate students. And so, I mean, that's kind of challenging for Purdue, but she's kind of, her group fluctuates as, like any group, as people graduate and new people constantly coming in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think for those of you who don't know about the history of chemistry education, was Purdue the first PhD program? If I had that right, does anyone know?
I thought it was Northern Colorado.
Really?
I don't know where it is in terms of which university had the first department that allowed you to pursue a PhD in chemistry with a dissertation that focused on education. Mm-hmm. But historically, it's played a large role in producing a lot of chemistry education PhD candidates and graduates. And but yeah, I'm not sure if it was the first.
I'll have to do some research on that. We should get an intern.
We'll have Kyle.
Kyle can do it.
Our made up Our made up secretary. Administrative. Well, that's exciting. And now Johnny's here.
What did you say?
And now Johnny's here, just living life.
And now Johnny's here, and I don't know where we would be without Johnny here.
It is something. When Leah was talking about like how important having a postdoc is, like I think that would be something that I never would have thought of a year or two ago when applying. Like it never would have been in my mind of like, oh, it'd be nice if there was a postdoc in the group. But now looking at it, I'm like, yeah, especially if you think larger groups where it's less likely that you're going to get a lot of one-on-one time with your advisor. I think a postdoc is a necessary thing for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And there wasn't a postdoc when I joined the Towns group, but there were a lot of 4th and 5th years. And it makes a huge difference to have people above you that you can just kind of turn around and say those little interactions on a daily basis. Like, what do you think about this? And like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes all the difference. It's a little, we can't really quite do that right now during these challenging times. But yeah, it makes. What's that?
Unprecedented times.
Unprecedented.
You just put us in like a perfect frame, and I was almost hoping that it would freeze, but you just came back. Like it was, but it was like I was like, wow, Leah, that's a nice freeze right there.
Oh, do we need to take a thumbnail picture?
Why, Johnny knows?
Yeah.
About this
because the one Kevin chose last time, I was the only one who like wasn't smiling, and it was so embarrassing.
By the way, Kevin cleared that photo with her.
Yeah, but what was I supposed to say? No.
That's true. That's a good point. I'm sorry. Are you?
I'm not going to cause problems.
Leah, do you edit this video for 10 hours each week?
Is it 10 hours?
No,
it's not 10 hours.
I don't know what happened because it used to take, I don't know, like 30 minutes to an hour for it to like process. Like once you edit it to like export it as a file, whatever. And I was like, okay, it's a bigger file. I get it. And then like the last 2 weeks, it's taken about 4 or 5 hours. And I just don't know what I'm doing wrong. And I have no.
I feel like it's taking days.
No, because I think the last time, maybe like 6-7 hours. But it's definitely a lot more than it's supposed to. And I'm doing something wrong. Who knows? But I feel like I haven't changed anything. I really couldn't tell you. I have absolutely no idea.
Maybe it was because there were 4 like devices on the Zoom or something.
I don't feel like that would, I don't know. Who knows? Anywho.
I know what I know.
Wait, I did want to talk, we should talk a little bit more about MISER, and Johnny will have some 2 cents. Because the one thing I wanted to say about so this is my first conference ever. I've never gone to a conference for my other research, and then I took a gap for 10 to 20 years. And then, so now I'm only back in this community. So and I agree that like it wasn't, I'm sure it's very different than conferences are in real life, but it was weird. Like it was the first time I felt like, oh, this is a community of people. Because even when you mentioned Kinsey Bain, I was like, oh, I just know the name because you read the papers and you get used to these certain names, so on and so forth. And then to like see, like, oh, it's a person. Like there's like someone out there face and everything. It was cool.
And it's cool because like it's so small. Like the community's. I mean, there were other people besides people in chem ed at the conference, but like the chem ed community is small in general, and it's cool because we read pretty much. I mean, we read so many papers of all these people who are there, and it's like, whoa, like you actually are a person who I've been reading their papers for the past year. Like, it's pretty cool.
Funny you should say that, because I think that was my first impression when I first went to a conference. It was my first year, and I think that's my favorite part, when you meet the people and like, hey, you're Bain of Bain and Towns. That's really, it's neat to meet those people, and I'm always kind of looking at people's name tags, like focusing on the last name, because that's the last name. When you're like citing, those are the names that you're kind of paying attention to, like, oh, that's really neat. And then kind of, it's a great little segue to start talking to them, like, oh, I read your paper about this, and you can kind of, they're real people, and you can ask them questions, and it's really nice to even like send them follow-up email and be like, hey, we talked at the conference, I have some more questions about your paper. And when that happens, they're always really excited to kind of respond back and answer your questions. At least that's how I feel, because people have done that to me, and like, oh yeah, of course, let's meet up, let's talk more about this paper. It's sometimes it feels like it's hard to gauge the impact of the papers that you write, and it's like, does anyone even read that? But it's really encouraging to see when people come up to you after you've published papers and they're like, oh, I read your paper. And that's a really exciting part, to see that you're part of that community and that people are recognizing you. That it's really neat.
And Johnny was like the star of the conference.
I wouldn't say that.
The last talk? He was the last talk. But even thinking about that, because the one that when Marcy had done that presentation, something I liked that I think is starting to happen is she brought up all the math research. And like, I almost hope that like, that's where ours starts going. Like chem ed is older or younger than the other ones, but you hope that like, yeah, maybe they read one of your papers or someone else's in chem ed and they talk about it at a math conference or a physics conference. That would be nice. And then we could have, because wait, are there conferences, are there conferences where it's more like STEM ed in general?
I'm sure there are conferences that are education in general. I think that's what the AERA conference is. I've never been to that one. Okay. But yeah, there are all sorts of communities, and you can always find one related to the very specific interests. Yeah. And mathematics education conference that I went to this past, I think it was in February. That one was a really neat community to kind of talk to, and they have some really interesting ways of thinking about data and frameworks, and kind of, it's interesting to see that the different paradigms that exist in different communities. And it does feel like mathematics education research and physics education research are kind of conceptually or theoretically kind of move beyond where we are. They're a little more advanced, and they have a lot of fun ways to think about student reasoning. And it's really useful to go to those conferences to think about, to get inspired about new ways to analyze data.
What a sentence.
Totally. Wow. I'm so inspired.
Yeah, I don't think we want this one to, no, Johnny, we could talk to you for days. You can come guest star on this podcast whenever you want. But I don't think we want to try, because we get a little lengthy with our videos.
Do you have a checklist of all the different tropes that you have to go through for each video? Like we did the jokes about Kevin's age. We have to do a shout out to Megan and Shally at some point. Maybe reference Kevin's mom.
Johnny really is our #1 fan. That's what I'm telling him. Like, he is the most loyal subscriber.
That was just amazing. Do you know that my mom's going to text me the minute she watches this being like, even Johnny knows who I am? I feel bad doing that impression of my mom. That's not what she sounds like.
But that's true.
She's definitely going to text me and be like, I'm so popular. Thanks.
Wait, we should take our thumbnail photo.
Yeah, we should. Now we're all ready? Can you come in and share?
No, I'm not ready.
Can I hold up like a bottle of hand sanitizer or something? This is a representative of me.
This is the first thing that we did together too. All right, Leah, you ready? Because otherwise you're gonna be cranky about your photo.
Yeah, wait, hold on. Tell me, like, hold on. Let me, like, get my face, like.
Goodness.
Okay, I'm ready.
You know that people are watching this, right? Like they're gonna see that you're like trying to.
No, this is the kind of Kevin and Leah banter that your fans have known to love. To come from.
Okay, can you count down?
1. Okay, it's done. Okay, thank God. That was amazing. Is that a book? Is that book just a riveting like page turner? Is that really?
I haven't started it yet, but I need to.
Just for all of the viewers out there, POGL is really what brought us together for the first paper that we worked on.
First couple papers. The first 3 papers for both of you.
It's like POGL is just POGL.
POGL all the time.
Okay, final.
Okay, well, we're gonna wrap things up. But Johnny, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, I had a great time. This has been. It's a little bizarre though because it's gonna be weird watching me.
You're gonna watch it? I've never watched any of them. Have you guys like?
Oh, I watch them all the time. I'll put them on in the shower and stuff, like just as background noise, like not to be weird, but like to listen to things. Like, is that weird?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's weird.
Well,
No, but like, people play music and podcasts when they're in the shower or like when they're washing dishes.
Not podcasts that they produce.
it would be like a quality control thing to see like, oh, how can we improve? How can we move forward?
Maybe I should do. That's a fair.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Exactly.
fair.
Thank you, Johnny.
A nice iterative, adaptive cycle. All right. Yes.
Excellent.
Do you have any shout outs, any plugs that you need for your life? You know, papers that are coming out, things you got to plug. They always do that on real podcasts. If they're an actual, like a famous person, they're like, oh, do you have to plug anything like you're coming up in? No? No papers or anything?
Well, we do have a literature review related to POGL that we're currently working on. So our dedicated followers can kind of look out for that if they're interested and want a review about process-oriented guided inquiry learning.
And the extant literature. I did not know that word until you started using it in papers, Johnny. Like I didn't like.
Which one?
Extant. How do you say it? Extant.
Yeah, no, that one actually wasn't me. It was our copy editor. She used that word a bunch, and I had to like edit the copy editor because like, okay, we're overusing this.
Because now I notice it every single, and I do like a mini laugh almost. I'm like, oh, extant. Like it just sounds funny. Anyway, we'll get. All right. Well,
Okay.
This was the best.
Thank you for joining, Johnny. Do you want to do the outro?
Yeah, you get to do the outro. I really thought you would get it like dead on, but I'm not.
What's that?
It's a ba, not a duh. It's ba 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 ba. I think I got it right. Okay, okay. I'm gonna end. Oh wait. Stop recording.